Today is session number 9 of our Development on CLIO platform course, and we continue our set of sessions with the practical examples and different topics related to CLIO development and the aspects and some deep things about no-code settings in CLIO. So today we will study and focus on object event model and how object changes, data changes can be tracked in CLIO. We have 3 different ways to do this, and I will explain what are the difference, how it works, and so on. And we also will have some time to talk about CLIO and make a brief intro for Tide tool in CLIO. And I will explain what it is and why you may be interested in it. First of all, let's start with object events. And I need to explain you some common ideas. So the main idea is that when you operate with your data in CLIO, maybe using manual actions, like we can create new records. And maybe we can do some kind of input like this, and then we, for example, insert data. So when we do this insert can be tracked at server side thanks to object model. Also, updates can be tracked at server side, and even delete operations also can be handled. So this is possible because all the changes are performed through objects. So our object has an option at server side to listen for events, and we can do some settings or even programming that will react on corresponding data change. Please note, this works only in case if object model is included. For example, if you use some class that performs some database insert from the database tools without object model, or simply you go here and you start to write insert into some object and some data and so on, then you will see no any handlers will be triggered, no any changes will be easily automatically displayed and tracked. And if you do changes in database level, then no event handlers will be triggered at all at application level. So why you may need handling of object events and why you may need to use this technique. Well, I will show you a practical example. Let's imagine we have kind of a record, so like data record of some apartment in Paris. And we have need to operate with planned visits, and we would like to make some kind of automation. For example, in case if we add new realty record, we may need to automatically program, and we can automatically calculate and put some future records into realty visits detail, for example. So this is something that can make our work easy, and user interface can be more friendly, and there are less steps for users to do. So if user adds data now, it's necessary to make realty visit planning for future to manually. So like we have an apartment, so we have to make a new realty visit manually. We can do some kind of data here, and finally we'll have just one more record. But if you want to work more efficiently, like you register a new realty record, then you want, for example, 5 or 10 or 50 different visits to be added automatically and planned for some future dates. This will be quite hard or even impossible to do this manually. And that's why some automation can be really helpful. This automation can be triggered when data is added to our main record, and we can do corresponding settings, for example, to fill in some detailed data. So this is just an example of the idea of why you may need automation. But in general, this is a universal tool. So you can use this handling for some automatic messaging, like sending messages to your managers or to some users, or you may face different reasons to perform some logic that will be triggered by data change. So this is a universal tool, and I will show you example which will not require programming at all. This is a no-code example using business processes and start signals. Maybe some of you already know how it works, so you will just refresh your knowledge, but I will still show you something that could be and tell you a bit more that maybe will be interesting for you to hear. So first, and very easy way of handling object events is a start signals in business process. I will show it for you, and it will not require programming, but this is something which is very efficient, and you need to know about it for sure. So I recommend to try this feature first if you have some task with no high load conditions. So let's do it. New business process. So I create new business process. We need to set some kind of code for it, USR, auto add realty visits process. So this business process will start with not a simple start message, which we have here. We can turn it into start signal. Start signal can be named, okay, we will give it name a bit later. So we have object signals and custom signals. Object signals are triggered when data change is performed. Custom signals are triggered when some program code is executed. Do not need custom signals. Of course, we will use object signals. We can listen to almost any object here. Of course, our like regular business data object like realty is fully available here. Here, I need to tell you that not all objects can be listened. Some system objects are filled in with the database level tools or with direct database management. So, for example, such tables as system setting, systems user sessions, or audit log, or other things which are very low level. So some objects will be not covered with this entity model, with this events model, but it's still, so for business entities, it's usually very good and it's fully covered, it works. So for reality object, of course, it will work. But here we have only 3 events. As you can see, added, modified, or record deleted. It's interesting that for added and modified, this event will be triggered after corresponding data change, and deleted, this event will be triggered before corresponding data change, because before system deletes this data, it is still possible to read some data records from deleted data row that will be deleted soon. So, okay, let's do it after adding. We have additional supplementary conditions here. For example, it can help us to trigger our process only in case of some very specific realty record will be created. So we can do additional filtering here if necessary. For example, we can make a filter here that will trigger our process with the start signal only in case if, okay, I can do this for you, only in case if type equals to apartment or house. So only in this case, this process will be triggered if type is empty or equals to something else. This process will be not triggered. So we can name it realty created. And this title will clearly say that the signal is triggered when realty is added. And running elements in the background. This is something which is very, very very efficient for general perceived performance. So performance, how the user can see it. This is very important because user may not notice that some server-side activities performed and some huge resources are consumed, because for user point of view, everything may work just fast. So running elements in the background makes a special setting for your process that will be submitted to the special queue for one-time execution of your process in CLIO scheduler. And this scheduler will run in a separate thread, will take several milliseconds later to run this process. But the most important, these next items of the process will be executed in a separate thread. This is important because running in separate thread means that user will not see exact delays caused by your process execution. And from user point of view, insertion of new data will be fast. In general, it's recommended. This is recommended option, and that's why it's turned on by default. And this is recommended for insert, for add, and for update. For delete, this may not work for you well, because if you will suspend and run items in the background, then it's highly likely that your background process execution will happen at the moment when data was already deleted. So for delete event, you probably should consider not to use this. But for add and update, it's recommended. Okay, so we have this signal, and what else? This signal has parameters. Only one single parameter, but very useful. This single parameter tells ID of the record which triggered this signal. So ID of the record which was added. Usually this is enough to get necessary data. For example, we can read data from the database about other parameters, other values of inserted realty. But in our case, as we plan to operate realty visits, we only need realty ID. This will be parent realty ID for us to insert some data into our realty visits detail. How we do inserts? We can use simply add data item. Now I expect that you have some experience of management business processes in CLIO. Maybe you finished customization course, which is recommended in general before running development, or maybe you just have your own previous experience in CLIO platform, or you can simply guess how such items work. So we will add data to a certain object. Of course, we will insert into visits. We will insert just one record, and we have to fill some columns for it. Parent realty is required. Maybe we will do visit date and time, set some constant there, and maybe comment will be set, okay? And we can call it add visit. Parent realty is ID of the parent data record of realty object. Of course, we will use process parameter. We'll use start signal. Here you can see this icon indicating start signal, and this is its title. Double click, and you can see now. You can see now this setting. Realty created. It's a signal name, unique identifier of record. This is ID of the record which triggered this signal. Okay, visit date and time. Now we can do it easily and select something like a current date and time just for the beginning. And here we can set some kind of test message. It's like visit created automatically. Visit created automatically. Okay, this is what we have here. And this is just one data row. And the advantage of processes, of course, is in automation. So maybe one data row is not enough. Let's make, for example, 3 planned visits. Of course, you can make it 33 if necessary. I'm just showing you example that will help you to understand. So let's make one more parameter. We need cycle, because I do not want to copy and paste and make an excessive example with just copy paste items here, but it's possible. You can do Control C, then you do Control V, so you can do copy paste, but it's not recommended. Each time you need to change something, you will need to do it in many items, and it's not good. So let's make a cycle. For cycle, we need a parameter, integer parameter. We can call it something like n, and the code will be, let's make it pretty n parameter. Its type direction will be internal, which means we use this parameter only inside of a process. We will never display it back as a result or expect it to be as an input value. So let it be internal. Direction here means input. Yeah, such parameters are read-only input data, which we expect to get at the beginning of the process. Outputs, such parameters are editable and expected to be returned as a result from process. Bidirectional means input and output at the same time and editable, of course. And internal means used only for internal purpose inside of process, not intended to be used for input or output. So internal is okay. And initial value, let it be 3, just for example. So we will have 3 records to insert, and I will have only one place to use this constant here. Now, we need to do a cycle parameter decrease. We will make it less and less. And then when it comes to 0, we will stop our cycle. Let me show you. It's not difficult, of course. Formula. When I land this item, you see special lines appearing, indicating correct place to land. If you land it incorrectly, like this is not working for you. So you see this item is not following this flow, and it will be, if you have an item in your process with no incoming flows, it will be treated as one more start point of your process, and it will be executed at the first step. So it's not what you need. Now we will do decrease of parameter. As you remember, formula is a simply assigning operator. So we will assign new value to a parameter. We have a parameter n, and new value will include its previous n value minus 1. This is very simple. We do some kind of type of for cycle here. And we can also make a clear indication what we are doing in this formula. It's a title just to display it. Okay, then we can use gateway, but we can skip it and cut some corners without gateway. And we will just go to repeat our cycle body. We will do this with conditional flow. Conditional flow is very different from sequence flow, and it will only work if some condition is true. Our condition is very simple, and you may guess n greater than 0. This is our simple condition that we do. We can also display and indicate this. So this kind of cycle is not very difficult to understand, even if you never programmed something like a 4 cycles in programming, any programming language. So once n is still greater than 0, we come back again to do inserts, and here we come back again, and we do it 3 times. Then we need to use default flow. Default flow is recommended. You can see this small, dash at the beginning, which indicates that this is a default flow, and default flow is used in pair with conditional flows. So if no one from conditional flows executed, then default flow will be executed. It helps to prevent your process from being stopped forever. So simply from being stuck at some stage without chances to move on. And having your process stuck is not good, because it will be still treated as running. It will still occupy some space in operational tables for creation, and it will still occupy some memory, which is not good. And that's why I usually recommend, if you have a process, it's better to make it work, then make sure that it finished properly, and then it will not consume your resources in your system. So if you have a process, it's better to make sure it will never stuck. And it can stack if you have mistakes in your conditions and no one your conditional flow is executed, then process will stack forever at certain item. Using default flow helps to make it not possible, and it will anyway go somewhere. So it will go to the finish step. Now we need to make some changes in date and time, because here we have current date and time. We can do some functions here. Luckily, we have set of interpreted functions. We can read more about formula, add corresponding article, check in rules, check in different parameters, and functions supported for date. Now we're interested in add days function. It will add the number of days to our current date time value, and we can add number of days that is represented in n parameter. First, it will add 3 days to current date and time. Next, it will add 2 days. Next, it will add 1 day. And that's how we finally will have all 3 records added to our database. Maybe not exact order as you expect, but it's okay. And this is how we can produce different date and time based on our cycle parameter and current date. Okay, this is very easy process. This is kind of a beginner level, but it shows you what you can do, and it shows you technical side of this handling object events. Of course, I can do it much more complicated, but for beginners, it's not necessary. You need to get the main idea. And also it's interesting that you can do it with many signals at the same process. I will show it later. Now let's check how it works. And also it's interesting, once you have a process which starts with the start signal and you save it, then your process is already active. You can find it in process library. You can see the process active. It started with start signal and it's already operational. So now let's check and make one more record. For example, near Tampa, there is a small US city called Treasure Island. It's also in Florida, and highly expensive apartments for sale there, not Ukraine. States. I'm not sure that Treasure Island will be here. No, okay, no city. Okay, we can leave city empty. And the idea is to check how it works. So we will create one more record. And then we can go and check details. Yes, we see some data. We can see the order of creating it. And you can see that it was created for certain dates in future, for tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, and so on. So we have this automation done for us. We can see values, we can see data, we can also do some kind of debugging messages here with text comments if necessary. So now you see it worked. Also, you can go to process log and to check that auto add realty visits worked for us, and you can see how it worked. You can see duration in total. You can see duration of its items that will never match total. You remember this when we discussed performance. And you see that inserts usually take quite significant time, but now it warmed up and next insert probably will be quite fast. So this is how you can check your process execution, and this process is listed in your log because of this setting, which started automatically, enable login. As you can see, it's possible to disable login, but I strongly do not recommend you to disable login because you will never know how it worked. You will never know its technical details, its performance. Maybe it's hanging, maybe it's not working, maybe it's broken. So without logs, you will never know about it. And that's why I think it's never necessary to disable login just to save some very little bit of function of performance for this. So login is usually really, really useful. This is how we managed to make an insert handling. Now I will show you So also it works for copy, of course. So if you make a copy of your realty, this is also physically an insert. When you save data, you will see that it worked well, of course. It will not work for updates now, but we can do an update example. And to make an update, we will be interested in following the same procedure, but with other input arguments. So let me show you how we can do this more efficiently. We can introduce a GUID parameter, unique identifier parameter. We can call it realty ID. I'm lazy to provide some custom code, so let it be as is. And maybe we can keep it bidirectional because we also can, in future, we can make a scenario where this ID will be provided as an argument, starting argument. So let it be bidirectional here. Okay, this is a parameter and no initial data. So when we have a start signal, we can use a formula to set this realty ID parameter from start signal. This is our start signal, unique identifier of record. Why? Now I will show you set ID from start from signal of creating. So we can do this later in add visits. Instead of using parent realty from start signal, we'll use parent realty from a parameter. And one more scenario, when we edit realty, so we can turn this signal into start signal, but event is realty object and event is modified. We can expect change in some specific column, or we can agree to run this process for any change in any field. And we also can do some filters for checking of data record and then run next steps in the background. So realty changed. We also have signal ID here, this ID of the record, and we can use another formula to get our parameter realty ID from this second signal. Realty changed, unique identifier of record, save it. So we can name this set ID from signal of editing. So we have this ID made now from another signal. And then we go back to our realty visit insert. So we do the same cycle. This cycle is now dependent on parameter. And we made it that this parameter is set from creating signal or from editing signal. And then we do the same operation. Let's save it. After save, our process immediately becomes active and it's fully operational now. Let's do this. Let's go to any existing record. Try to make change in any part of it. Save it. You see no changes. But if we reload this data, of course, we see new records created. Now, just a small bit of extension, so we will see and how it can be quite comfortable. It's possible to enable live data update for details, and we still have this page displayed. Let me show you. So now, let me explain one more time. Maybe it's not clear. When we do some changes, like we slightly increase the price, save data, physically, server-side process executes correctly. But we don't see any changes here because client-side is not automatically refreshed. We can only ask system to refresh it, and you see that physically new data were added. We can tell system to automatically refresh data in realty visit object in case if some changes in realty visit data were done at server side. This feature is called live data update. We already looked at it for contacts or accounts examples, and it was turned on by default for contact an account in Customer 360 app. Now we can turn it on for realty visit. This will take some little additional performance price, but it's still quite good. So we can save and publish our object. So we will apply our change. After this, we go to main page and reload it just to make sure we have no problems with client-side caching. And now I expect that data will be automatically updated each time we do some changes for existing records, and it will be displayed. So let's go again. And for updates, we do not check the type. So we do any change here, like area slightly increased, okay? Save it. And now you see some automatic data refreshing was done here. Maybe not ideally, maybe not lightning fast, but it was done. And it works well with no code, no programming, and quite efficient. And we can just simply spend little time to achieve this significant result. If we do more changes, more records are added. And of course, this business logic can be changed, can be checked, how many records you want to add, and so on. There is a comment from Andri that it's better not to use background execution if we need results of the execution in the process immediately. Some delays. And tasks queue. There is a queue. Yes, of course, I understand. And so let me explain why we used this default behavior. So this is recommended setting. And recommended is because usually when you handle some additional actions, when you save data for your new record, you usually do not expect to immediately to see something, because when you save data, your inserted page is usually closed. For example, when you add new records. So running elements in the background will decrease the time where a user will wait for page to save and finish its work properly. So from user point of view, if we use running in the background, saving will be performed faster. From system point of view, it means that it will be performed in a separate thread. And of course, I agree that if you need some data immediately to be set or displayed somewhere, maybe using background is not good. But if you disable running in the background, you will notice some delay of execution of your save. So from system point of view, your save button will work slow, because all the time which is necessary for your process to execute will be also added to the common time of saving procedure itself. And maybe users will be not really happy with making bigger delays. Our performance, as you can see here, is not lightning fast because it's no code, because we do everything in interpreted mode. You can check process logs. You can see that its execution takes maybe 200 milliseconds or something like this. So it will be noticeable for user if we disable background. But anyway, thanks, Andri, for your comments. So it was example how you can do it, how you can start similar procedures by different start signals. Of course, they will never start at the same time. Some insert happens, then this procedure works. Some update happens, then this flow will work. So they will never work at the same time. And even if you face situations where you have some parallel flows running, you can learn to and how to use different gateways. And for these gateways, you can always get information, a brief information, explanation how it works. So I think you will just easily get necessary information about what you need to know about gateways, and sometimes maybe you will need to join some parallel flows into one and wait for all parallel flows to finish. So you can play with gateways for this. Now, probably it's enough for working with signals. I think it's clear how it works. For delete signal, you should remember that it's triggered with before delete event. So if you do not use a background, then for delete behavior, you will be able even to read data of data record from the database before it will be deleted. And this is how you can get some data values of this record. And this is something that can be really important to know some data before users will lose it forever because of delete here. Okay, let's go further with other types of handling events. And this one is using of object events and object properties and embedded process. Let me explain what is the trick here. Every object in CLIO has its own setting for events. And as you remember, with start signals, we had only 3 supported events: after insert, after update, and before delete. We had only 3. Here in object events, we have 13 supported events. Sorry. So we have 13 supported events. You can see before and after insert, before and after update, before and after delete, and some other additional events. So a lot of them. So it's plenty of events. And if you want to make such event handler, you should mark corresponding event. You should copy this. And then the easiest and the most interesting trick here is that for every object in CLIO, there is a single individual embedded events process. So one object has one single special process. We can open it and see it. Usually it's empty. And this special events process, it has very limited set of steps to use. You can use event sub-process. You can use start message. Inside of it, you should provide this copied value. And then probably you can use script task to do some kind of processing of this event. You will be able to use entity reference in this code. You will be able to do some C# programming in C# scripts for handling these events, but we will not go deeper here because such type of event handling, unfortunately, is not supported for objects that are placed in packages compiled as separate assembly. So this is one of the limitations of this compilation in separate assembly. Object events for embedded processes will not work. That's why we do not go deep, and we will not sacrifice this feature because its importance is bigger than event handling. But if you have some package intentionally not compiled as separate assembly, then you can use this functionality. And if you still want to use it, you can find an object named contact in base platform in, okay, let's do this. Somewhere in CRT core base, you can see some very, I think it's still outdated. It's very old examples. So you can see old examples of event handling, and you can go to see its embedded process. You can see some old examples of processing such events. So you can see that we have embedded event subprocess, you have included into it start message, and then you can see some handler, which usually refers to entity. This entity is an instance of entity class data row, which includes your current data processed in this event. You can see other examples. You can see a lot of other things and examples where a lot of code is made. And also, usually such processes have separate methods programmed here and used for business logic implementation. And here you can have just a method call. And here you can see method implementation. as you see, a lot of methods here. This. So this and this is called. So from here, you can see some calls made here. Sorry, I just made a mistake. Okay. Yeah. So you can write some code directly in C# script task, or you can call from C# script task this common set of methods. And the idea of generating class, idea of using C# scripts, they are very close to what we already learned. So we will not go deep because this is a feature which is designed and it's very old, but it's not supported anymore for new modern packages. You may also find explanations about it. And let's go to C guides, development, backend. No. Tools, packages, and assembly packages, which the most popular type of package is. There is a specifics of this package. So saves assembly package to the data. Okay. File content. Okay. Does not compile full configuration. This is very good. But requirements do not implement business logic using sub-process in Object Designer. Yes. So this is kind of requirement, or I think it's limitation of this functionality. So you cannot use embedded processes for objects in your packages where you have compilation into separate assembly package. It's okay. Not so big price. We still have one more option to operate, entity event listener option, which is really good. And this is our next topic, how to handle object events using event listener. As you can see, previous start signal feature used only for no code and business processes. Then this stuff can be done with programming, but is obsolete, is no longer used and not proposed, so not recommended to be used. This new feature, event listening, is fully programmed in C#, and the most recommended type of handling events for now. You can find corresponding article in the backend. It's called object events. And here you can see all these mechanism explanations. Before we continue, I propose to have a 10 minutes break. So today's session, okay, let's make just a 10 minutes. It will be quick. And then we'll continue with our event handling with programming using entity event layer. And I will also tell you more, and we will see how CLIO can work for you. So 10 minutes to rest. Let's go. And there is a question from Pedro. Explain the exam for the course. And yes, we will discuss it tomorrow. Understand the exam format and preparation and so on. Yes, we will discuss it tomorrow. It's included in our training part. I will explain what this exam includes, what are the parts, how to perform homework, how to prepare for tests, how to make self-assessment tests. So you'll be able, and you will see how to do this. So no worries, it's possible. And even if your English is not well, you can use automatic translation to other languages if necessary. We will discuss it, Pedro. Thank you for your questions tomorrow. Let's move on with today's topic. And the third type of event handling is event listener. So what the main idea? We can do some programming. We can declare a class which will be capable to handle up to 8 different events. So we have 8 different events here, and it's not bad. So you can see all the typical situations where you need to make it before and after insert, before and after update, before and after delete here and here. And we also have very special, interesting example before and after save. I will explain what save means here. So we have 8 supported events. We need to do some programming here, but luckily we have examples, and I will show you examples how you can do this at your environment. So you will see it's not very difficult. It requires some C# programming and some C# experience, and you will see some examples and you understand. First of all, I need to explain why we have 8 events here. The most important, of course, is what is saving and saved. And what does save mean here? In case, if you need to handle exactly insert scenario, you can use before insert, inserting, or after insert, inserted event. That's okay. If you need only updates, you have updating and updated. But in case, if you need the same behavior, the same function should be triggered when you do insert or when you do update, you can do it programming twice with corresponding handlers, or you can use saving handler for before insert or before update, and saved for after insert and after update. So saving and saved events are made to make same processing for 2 different scenarios at one place. I will show you examples and you will understand why it is so attractive and why we have this saving event. So it works in case of add data record, and it also in case when you update data record. Now I need to show you examples. Of course, this article, you should read it if you need to get more technical details. Now I will show you practical example. And to make this program work for us, we need to go to our package, make new C# source code. If you want, you can also integrate it with Visual Studio. Maybe I already have an example, so I do not really need Visual Studio now, but it's up to you. We can make something like realty events name for this C# source code, and then we can create some code for it. So you can use Visual Studio, or you can type code directly here. I already have examples for this, so I will not need to do much of Visual Studio programming, so maybe I can use this code. I will also copy and paste it for you, so you will be able to reproduce. You can do it yourself. And this is a sample of a C# module written just a text in C# language. And I need to explain how we do programming here. We declare a class, but in order to make it listen for certain object, you must make this class inherited from base entity event listener, and also make a decoration. So you need to specify special C# attribute here, entity event listener, and you need to provide schema name value here. Schema name is our object that we plan to listen. This is a very important advantage because here you can specify any object name, any object which is supported for listening data inserts, data changes can be used here regardless of your package dependencies, regardless of anything. So you can just listen any object name. And this is very, very attractive. Maybe even object that you cannot change, maybe object from some parent package or base platform package, so whatever. This is very attractive, any object. And without any changes in object itself, which is also attractive. So how we do handling? We can do up to 8 supported methods. You can find it all in documentation how to do this. I already made my own example for event named saving. This is before insert or before update. So this method will be triggered in two situations: before record is added or before record is updated. And you can see we have sender argument. We have also E, it's a parameter which will give us additional properties and arguments for our event handling. And for before events, we have additional benefit here because we have an option to make a silent cancellation. We can do canceling of this event. If it's before event, so before some date change happened, we can do its canceling without throwing exceptions, but it will be too silent. This may work for situations when you do some integration and we need just to make some checks of data and data is not correct. You can just silently reject it and do not perform corresponding actions. In case if you do it for page management, like you insert data with the help of a form page and you do is cancel it true. So you set it here without any kind of raising exception, then user will not notice that something is wrong until page is closed and user starts to check, do we have such data record in our list? And if not, then only then user will realize that something is not going well. So this is too silent reject. And of course, reject is only supported for before events, so ing events. After events where a data change was already done, you cannot cancel it, but you can do some corresponding steps if you want. So here we have sender. This sender can be turned into entity. Entity is a class to manage data record with one single data row inside. So it means one entity instance is capable to manage only one data row. And we need it because we want to get certain column values. And before events can be used to perform so-called server-side validation. So we can do some checks of data and reject corresponding data change if some checks were not passed. I just forgot to explain the business sense of this example. So the business sense is if user tries to add some realty with extremely high price, like more than 1 billion of euros. So if it's so expensive here, so we do not allow it to save. We simply reject such insert. And we can do price check of data. So we can get price column, perform comparison. If price is greater than 1 billion, then we cancel this. But you may not do exactly this canceling, and we need to make it loud and clear. So we compose message error text based on a localizable string. So we can do value too big localizable string. Let me copy this for you as well. You'll be able to reproduce. So I will need to register localizable string is saved separately, code. And this is my template text for the message. Okay, great. So we do this value to big localizable string. It's ready. It will be replaced with this text at the end. So this is how we do server-side validation. Saving will be triggered before insert and before update. And it will be ideal for our server-side validation. Now we need to save this item. You can also click Save and Publish, which will start compilation. In this mode where we have development in file system, even if we use internal editor, our source code is still saved somewhere at our file system. Let me show it for you. PKG, our realty, schemas, events. Now you can see this C# code. So you can use Visual Studio to edit this C# code more efficiently. Now I do not need it. I save my RAM and I already have my example ready. Of course, you can use Visual Studio, no problem. And we need to compile this. Compilation can be done with this compile action for the package, the most efficient way to do this. And compared to compilation of all the system, it will take just 20 seconds or something, and the whole system will take compilation maybe 2 or 3 minutes. So it's a very significant improvement of general speed. And this package is called assembly package, offers you to write almost any C# code in its parts. You can use Visual Studio for development. We already made it yesterday, so you already saw examples. Now you see it took just maybe 20 seconds to compile. After this compilation, system performs a hidden restart, so our application will be operational just slightly after this. And now we can check how it works. So let's reload the page to make sure that our system is fully prepared. So let's add new realty with a moderate price. Okay, moderate. Moderate price means $500,000. Okay, this is a house and no any special comments, just save it. It saves correctly with no any restrictions. But let's try to make a very big price, very expensive. And the price will exceed 1 billion, for example, 2 billions. And in order to pass this area validation in client side, we need to put some value here. Okay, so trying to do this, also I need to show you what happens in the network, but when we will listen to all requests. So trying to save very, very big price. Server side fails to run this, and you can see error message, and you can see that our error code, status code is 500. So this is severe server-side issue, server-side error, and it rejected to perform this insert because we raised exception. We can see payload. This is our valid data that we put there. And of course, our price is extremely high. Here, our price is very big. And we have a response. Response is an error message, which tells us that prices higher than 1 billion are not allowed. So it was rejected. But the reason why we handled it with exception is we need to keep this page opened. We need to tell user that we have some problem and we do not user to lose all the column values. So now user can modify this record. For example, less than 1 billion will be, for example, 900 millions. It will be less than 1 billion, and it should be allowed to save. Let's do this. Yes, this saving was done, and even 900 millions is okay. Now we can edit data, and let's try to trick. Probably now we can put this price 10 times bigger and trying to save this value now. Let's see what happens if we do update. Update also failed. You can see 500. You can see response error message text. So it was not successful, of course. And it tells us that the same error message. So the reason why we used saving was to handle two different situations for insert and for update. And we can do in one single place. This is advantage of using this event. Of course, if you need to only handle inserts or only handle updates, we have corresponding events for it. So up to 8 supported events. You can also make your own methods inside of this code. So it's not forbidden. You can make your own methods to make your code more structured, but such methods are overridden, which means we use a functionality of virtual methods, and you can override virtual method telling to the class that we do not want to run a parent implementation, we want to run our implementation of the method. Inside of it, we usually still call parent implementation, just not to not to fail and not to miss some functionality that possibly was programmed somewhere else for the same object. So this helps to make it consistent and not to break the logic too much. So this is usually recommended, especially if you have complex structure of project and you may have the same event handling. So for the same object in many different places, maybe this will work better for you. So this is how it works, and we managed to do this for inserts, for updates, not for delete, but it's up to you. You can do programming. This programming requires coding, requires compilation, but it works much faster. So you can track it with our history of checks. For example, successful insert took only 100 milliseconds. So it's very similar how it takes when you have no checks at all. So the cost of such check is not so high. Update query also performed quite well. You can see hundreds of milliseconds. So this kind of event handling is very good for high-speed requirements, for situations where you have expectations to run your code under high load conditions. So this can work for you and even for integrations. If you have any questions, feel free to ask because we finished this topic. Of course, you should remember these things like this are saved in our package as a source code. We can also save them fully to the file system just to commit to our version control. Maybe, no. I don't want to run Visual Studio. Okay, we'll wait till it finishes to load. I wanted to run Visual Studio Code and I already have it here. So when our app saves everything to file system and finishes to do that, we will see full list of changes made in Visual Studio Code, and we will see files and stuff made in our application, like example of business process and so on. Okay, got it. Start signal business process and entity event handler. Examples. Okay, so we do commits, we do push, pull and push, and that's how we commit everything to version control. Other developers now can follow this and can do the same at their own environment, taking data from repository. Okay, so we finished this part. In case of any questions, please ask me. And now it will be a very interesting topic. It's about CLIO tool, why you need it, how it can be used, and what are the main most important and interesting functions of CLIO. Also, at the end, I will tell you a couple of words about TIDE tool. So let's start. What is CLIO and why you need it? Developers needed some maintenance tool, and one of the top priority tasks is to automate package save and package load procedure. Normally, you can just go to your application hub or even to packages, but application hub is more recommended now. If your app has many packages like this, you can export your app as one single action, which will save all of the packages from inside. So this is more attractive than saving separate packages manually. Now our app here has only one package so far, and the export of package or export of application makes the same action now. And in order to deliver, you could export your app, then go to test environment and import your app from file. We already did it many times. Maybe I need to turn on my test environment to demonstrate it one more time to make this demo and all this video more consistent. So here we have a separator. Here we have a local test environment. Meanwhile, I need to clean these unnecessary things. They are no longer used, I guess. Maybe this also. Okay, this is my test environment. I just need to warm it up. It will cost me maybe a gigabyte of RAM, but it's okay. So let's do this. So what is CLIO and why you need to know it? You see, we have some actions that we have to perform manually. Sometimes we have need to run actions which we cannot perform manually at all. For example, you need to restart your app and you will restart your creation and you will need some additional apps like maintenance tools, or maybe you can also restart with IIS tools. And I'm just trying to explain that from time to time, you will notice that you need special tools to perform special actions with your creation instance. Usually it's necessary and interesting for developers. And many years ago, maybe 5 years ago, developers started to make this project to create this tool that will handle all such kind of needs that appear quite often for creation developers. We called this tool CLIO. Maybe it stands for Command Line Input-Output Interface for creation. And we can find it, CLIO GitHub. This is how you can go to GitHub repository made by a team called Advanced Technologies Foundation. And this team includes mainly creation employees, but some others are from different countries, from different partners or customers. And you can also become a contributor and to become someone who do some impact on this tool. And I need to explain how you can use it and what it can do for you. So this is a general use tool with many different maintenance functions for creation. As creation developer and creation expert, I think you need to know this tool and you need to know how to use it, and you will find it useful in your everyday work. First of all, we need to study how to install this. Technically, this is a .NET Core app managed from command line utility, command line interface. So you can see command line interface, maybe output or something. So CLIO is a name. And we can check your .NET Core first. I will use command line interface from my file manager because it helps me to remember previously used commands and they have a good display. You can also run it. If you don't have far, you can just run it with your CMD. And this is a command prompt from Windows. So it will be enough. You can also use CLIO here, but I don't really like it from command prompt because far is better for me. Maybe I need to switch to some upper folder. Okay, something like this. How we start to work with CLIO and why you need to do this. So one of the most important functions for you about CLIO is its ability to automate saving of packages and loading of packages, but it's not the only one. CLIO has a lot of functions, managing different environments, pinging, restarting, clearing Redis, changing system settings, lock and unlock packages, and a lot of other things related to development. We will not study all of possible CLIO commands because from package development perspective, especially if you are creation beginner, then probably you do not need all of its functions, but some basic things I think you need to know about it. So let's start. First of all, we need to check that you have .NET Core on board. If you run creation locally on board, you definitely have it, but you need to check if not. So .NET, and that's it. If you see no error messages, if you run .NET, it means .NET Core is installed. You can check its SDK versions, .NET, you can say a command, --, list SDKs. It shows you installed versions of .NET Core and .NET Framework. maybe versions, application versions. So now you can see several SDKs installed for .NET Core. It's good. This is suitable. It's good enough. So we can see it's it support. This is enough to run Creation. If you have not latest .NET Core SDK, your Creation may not install because it has some requirements for the version of SDK to use. How to install Creation? How to install CLIO? I already have it installed, so maybe I will remove it now. .NET to uninstall CLIO G. This is command to remove CLIO, just to show you what happens where you have no tools at all. .NET to list G. This command shows you list of installed .NET Core tools, and we don't have any. So now we can install CLIO. CLIO will be registered as a .NET tool. .NET to install CLIO G. This command is the main command to install main part of the CLIO. It requires internet, and it will take some time while .NET Core from your machine will go somewhere to NPM, somewhere to NuGet package storage, and get the latest packages, the latest stuff for CLIO, and save it at your own system. And here I show you all the commands that are necessary. The same version of CLIO was installed. You can also update it. If you already have CLIO, but you do not want to remove it, you want to update it. .NET to update CLIO G performs checking internet and checking version and checking if it's necessary to update. So this is how you can slightly improve CLIO version. CLIO version is changed quite often, almost every week. And I just forgot to say that this tool is written by a group of enthusiasts. So they do not get money for this. They mainly are Creation employees. So they have everyday regular work. And after they finish it, they go into this enthusiastic project and they do it for free. And this is a tool with open source code distributed on free conditions. So you can also participate in it. So they do not earn any money, but Creation platform and ecosystem gets huge benefits from this tool. And that's why we studied here. Okay, we already installed this CLIO tool. How we can check that it works? This is just CLIO without parameters. Without parameters, it will show us something like verb was not found. So here are all the list, so no verb selected, you see. And you can see a list of all the commands that can be called with CLIO. And here I have a little confusion because this set of commands, let me explain the idea, has a long, so full version of commands. And also you can see the second row with the short versions of commands. Long versions usually have full explanation in its name, and short version just have a little text like this. Unfortunately, not all commands have display with their short version. For example, pushpkg, which means install package, also has a short verb install, which is not displayed here. And as developers explained me, developers of Core, CLIO, of CLIO product, they have this behavior because of if a command has several short alternatives, no one from them is displayed here, unfortunately. So I don't know why they have several alternatives for pushpkg. It could be enough just to have install. And that's why we sometimes have missing gaps here and here. And all of such commands usually have short alternatives, but we do not know about it because of some lack of execution here, lack of display. But it's not very difficult. It's kind of side thing which gives us understanding that this tool is written by enthusiasts and There is no general project management. There is no general quality assurance. So they do all the things, all the code by themselves. And you can check it if you go deep into repository. So what we can do here? First of all, you need to know that CLIO operates with web service calls. So it's a command line utility, which makes HTTP queries to your creation. And it doesn't care if it's a local creation running on localhost or if it's some kind of network-based creation running somewhere on a different continent. So it just tries to connect through the network to the corresponding endpoint, corresponding web service. And if it runs successfully, it's okay. If not, it will show you error message. So CLIO can happily operate with both local and remote instances, which is very attractive, especially if you have a task to deliver your solutions to the cloud quite frequently and ideally automatically. So CLIO can do it for you. And because you operate with remote instances that have a URL, you need to provide login and password. Almost every command in CLIO accepts such parameters like URL, login, and password. But it's not comfortable and not safe to provide URL, login, and password into every command. So instead of this, we have the approach to register so-called web applications. And the CLIO can remember list of such applications somewhere in file on your system, and it will be easier to operate with list of such apps instead of providing login, password, and URL for each call. So let me show you how it works. First of all, we can check CLIO show web app list. This command shows you list of registered applications. I already registered my D1 and D2 to operate, and we did already, we checked how we can do delivery with CLIO, but I need to explain some details. This list of settings is saved into your PC at this address. So you can find it if you go here and start to edit this file manually. So you can do this, but I prefer to use CLIO tools to set it up. And what we do here to register is command, we already did it, CLIO reg web app. But first of all, maybe you'll be interested in getting some help. So how you can get additional help? You can run CLIO, certain command, H key, will help you to get some help message, usually shown at github.com. And for some commands, you will find it that it's present. Show web app list. And you can see a list of all applications. And this is how you can get some help. Also, I found it useful if you just provide some incorrect key, which will fail to work, but it will show you that if this option is unknown, then you can see some other options. So short list, show short list. I don't know what it is. It's interesting. What is short list? Because we have a long list here. Let's try to check it. So show web app, and then we can ask for S, which means short. Oh, nice. Hiding logins and passwords, but demonstrating you only list of existing environments. Really, really good. Maybe you will like it. And also, as for commands, we have also long and short version for parameters. Long version usually have double minuses. Short versions of parameters usually have single minus. So the same command could work like this. The minus short. You can see it works. So it's like the same alternative for long and short parameters. Okay, we have a list of environments. How to register? CLIO reg web app. We already did it for registering of our dev system. This is example. I will copy all the comments into chat, so you will record everything. You will see how we do this. I do not need to do it one more time, but you can see what happens if I do. So it just overwrites. Then we need to register one more app to perform registering of our test environment. This is example of our test environment. And I will also copy and paste examples for you for test. Okay, clear. We can check their availabilities. CLIO ping ed1. This is how we can check availability of first environment, and it looks like warmed up and fully ready. Unfortunately, this ping does not check if you have a correct password. So it just checks that your app is present. And you cannot use ping to use kind of brute force option to check your passwords and find the proper one. So ping is not suitable for this. CLIO ping ed2 test. Okay, we have it. This is how we can check second system availability, and it's nice to have. Okay, you already know sometimes we need to restart target application. You remember we needed it when we changed columns, when we prepared system for correct debugging. So we have some like regular legal reasons to restart our app. We can do it, you already remember, we can do restart with this maintenance tools for Croatia, or you can do it with CLIO restart, and we can select which app we start. Restart is usually safe, which means we do not lose data with it. We only tell our application to reload set of its assemblies at server side, and then also tell client side that restart is being done. So now you see it took even less than 10 seconds. Really nice results. And restart sometimes is necessary when you do your own development. So you already know from our previous session session examples where you need it. Okay, restart. Also, sometimes in rare cases, you will need to clear Redis cache. So it's a command called, I can see it's full. And now you see this and this. We can use clear Redis DB command or its short alternative flush DB. And if you really need to clear Redis cache, then you can do this with this command. So clear and Redis will work. Of course, you need to provide environment name. I do not need it now, and that's why you can try only when you really need it. Okay, what else? I forgot to tell you one important thing. So you already understand that CLIO runs some Croatia web services. And we used simple commands previously. So we used different commands like this. And why they worked? They worked because Croatia already out of the box keeps certain web services ready. And for example, such operations like ping or like restart or even like save and load applications, such commands are already implemented in our in our Croatia out of the box. So Croatia already has certain web services that can be called from client side for example, for CLIO. And also you can call it not only from CLIO, so such services exist. And we can use different commands even without any special preparations, especially the most popular commands that you may need is managing of downloading and installing packages. And also you may find it very, very important to download and install applications. Let me find these commands. Install application. So I found the install application command. And somewhere nearby, I should find download application. I need to find it. Oh, yeah, here. Download application. this is something that will be a pair of this. So such commands turn out to be ready out of the box and already operational even without any special preparation from CLIO side. Let me show it for you. We already checked it, and now you will see that it already works. So I already have a script that uses this application-oriented commands to save app and to load app. So save app from source environment to file, and to load app from file environment, file zip to target system. Now we save it from D1 into zip, and then from zip to D2. We already managed it and we did it many times. Now you will see one more example. It makes sense to check it often, because if you notice that your loading fails, or if you notice after successful loading that something is not working well, of course, it's better to fix it without waiting some time, because, you know, when you miss some bug in old solution, then it will be quite hard for you to remember what you did, where you changed it, and it's better to fix things just when you develop it, not 1 month later. Okay, loading and saving of applications was correct. It's also possible to save and load only packages. And this is command CLIO download. It's for packages. I will show you some example like this. It's packages saving and loading. This is for save, and this is for load. I'm using short alternatives for pull pkg and push pkg commands. So now you can see how you can do this. R for logs, zip, and D for destination file for zip. So now you can see how it works. Okay, so we still work without any special preparation for our system. What I'm talking about, there is a package that we need to install into CLIO to enable full set of CLIO functions. Let me show you. For example, we think that, oh, it's everything good. We do not need to do anything else. So finally, we may try to run some function which requires special additional setting. For example, CLIO SQL. Let's try to do this. Let's try to run CLIO SQL. Then we do something very simple. Select name from contact like this, but for D1 environment. We try to run it, and we see some strange error. This error means that we have some kind of exception handled, and this exception means something is wrong, something is not correctly executed, and we don't know why. Sometimes you may face in other commands, which will be more clear indication of something is wrong, and I can show you how, for example, get info command works. Okay, let's try CLIO get info ED1. So this command could be important especially if it runs in the cloud, because this command reads data from the database, from your application. So it gets data from your application server-side settings and tells you if it runs in .NET Core or .NET Framework mode, and also product information. But you need to see that, no, we can't run it. You see that we have CLIO Gate package. So how we can get it and why we need it? CLIO is improved and designed almost every week. So we have some new functions appearing here quite often. In order to implement corresponding functions in target creation system, we must add something to the target environment in order to make a corresponding web service or something ready to use for CLIO commands. CLIO runs web service calls, and someone or something should respond properly at target creation side with corresponding function. And all such functions developed by CLIO do not appear magically and automatically at corresponding creation. So we need to add special functions to creation side to make it work. This is performed with a special command. We can see it here, of course. This command is called install gate. It turned out that we also have a short alternative for it that is called just gate. And I found this only from documentation at Academy and not from here, which would be ideally if we see this short command here. But okay, here we know install gate. How to do this? CLIO install gate ED1. This is very important command because it will download from the internet and install to your target environment one more package. It will take time. Now you will see that package is already installed, restart applications performed, and as a result, here you see applications being restarted. And we also can look here in our configuration section. We will see one more package called CLIO Gate. This package has almost nothing in visible area. This package is compiled as separate. No, okay. This is interesting for Andrei, I think, who is fan of project packages. So CLIO Gate looks like this is example of a yes, Andrei. You can see that CLIO Gate is like an example of a package not compiled into separate assembly, but implemented as a project package, which includes its own project and its own libraries that can be partly connected with Creatio, but mainly developed as a separate project. So you will see, as a result of it, you will see file content, of course. And the CLIO Gate package is here at file system now already. And its main part is file content. We even can see its all C# sources. So if interested how it was written, you can find all of its sources. And maybe you can even find its main project file here. Let me see. No, not here, probably, unfortunately, but still it's useful to know what C# sources are made here. The most important part of it, of course, is this, this bin folder and several DLLs provided as a file contents. Also, for debugging, we have PDB files here. It's also nice to have. So DLLs, 6 different DLLs added here, and such DLLs include some functionality, some classes and web services. If added to our system, such package adds set of web services to target creation environment, and that's how CLIO can work. That's how CLIO can run all of its new functions. Now, let's check again. We can check this CLIO SQL to try to read some data from the database using SQL queries made by CLIO. And now it works. You see, we have an obvious difference. We have a new example, and it really makes what we need. You can do any SQL scripting with CLIO. It can be additionally useful if you do not run SQL Query Console special app, which is quite old. And this can be really helpful if you do it in the cloud and you need some just quick selections. And you should remember, in the cloud, most of Creatio instances are running with Postgre SQL database. So you should consider your SQL syntax for Postgre, which means you run all column names and table names in double quotes for Postgre. So you can do it. Also, you can see our query for get info. Now this function works and shows us current product, version, the type of runtime, the type of the database, and if you have licenses, you will even see license information here. So this get info command can be also really, really useful, and it only makes possible to run if you install CLIO Gate. So if you install this install Gate command, and CLIO Gate package appears for you. So now we have full set of functions of CLIO, and let me show you what else can be useful for you. Maybe you know already about lock and unlock packages with hotfix. You can also permanently lock and unlock packages with CLIO if necessary. I will quickly show you. There are commands for lock and unlock. Let me try to show it for you. LP and UP. Let's find it here. Lock package. To lock it forever, it means permanent lock. Unlock package is so obviously unlock, but not for hotfix. It unlocks it permanently. UP command for unlock. Okay, I may use full command to be more clear for you. Let's try to do this. CLIO unlock package. For example, package name is approval, just as example. And E, it's for environment D1. So we can run an example of unlocking package. Of course, you should understand this is not recommended everyday action. You should not unlock packages just because you want. And usually it means that you do something not very good if you need to unlock packages on regular basis. So base platform packages must be locked. But now we can check how it looks when unlocked. Of course, you will see unlocked package here. You can change it. You can save some changes if you want, but you should remember, if you start to do things like this with changing of base platform packages or packages made by someone else and loaded from file, then once you load new versions of packages, for example, as a result of upgrade or as a result of loading next version of your app, maybe some base platform app from marketplace, then your changes will be lost. So you should take it like seriously and care. And when you see that your package is no longer necessary to be unlocked, you can lock it again with CLIO. CLIO lock package. And then you can specify its name, approval, and environment D1. This is how you can lock it back. This performs simply database operations, and now we can check if we reload the page. Page will be locked again. So now you cannot change it. Approval is still read-only package with the gray colored icon. There are some side effects with the temporary availability to save some changes here because this application caches package statuses. But if you log out, log in, of course, you will see. Of course, you will see that so everything will be correct and the locked package will not allow you to edit something. Let me show you something else, what can be useful here. I think for project development, that's it. Probably you have a lot of functions here for key Kubernetes files. You can see examples and comments for some deploy creation from zip file, something like very questionable commands because they need a lot of parameters. You can see new functions related to Git and running some scenarios, connecting to some repositories, working with NuGet packages here. And this is something related to like advanced C# programming, maybe not very first task that you do. Also, you can see compile package command, maybe, which will work well if you need to compile your package from a command, and maybe if you need to do some applying of changes. But when you load a package with a normal CLIO install command, it performs necessary compilation when necessary. You can see file for upload licenses, working with so-called workspace. Workspace, it's a file system, set of files and folders where you can create kind of your own project, and with including of some CLIO packages, but mainly focused on file system and external development environments. Features, you can also manage system settings. You can also set so-called features. I did not tell you about features because this is a set of very experimental things. So if you go to your browser and start to type your application address 0 features, so if you do like this, you will get to an experimental menu. So something which you should not do on production, I guess, but it includes a lot of settings which are called features and designed to enable or disable certain functionality, which is usually under construction. If some functionality is already fully made correctly, usually corresponding feature is always on, and you do not need to change it because it works well, fully tested, and it's okay. But if some big functionality is being developed for months and more, maybe half a year, then this functionality will be included into your application, but its feature will be disabled. So single users, regular users will not notice any trace of it. Only if developer enables this feature, certain functionalities start to work, and if it's not fully ready, developer can debug it, may make it better, and so on. And this is how certain functions can be developed even for half a year or more, even after several releases, being unnoticed till their full final release. So in some experimental cases, in experimental situations and beta settings, you may find the features here. You can experiment and enable it at your own risk. So this is something that is risky. And that's why it's not possible to find it out from user interface only. You can find it from special URL. And this is a set of experimental risky features that is usually added under the development of some new functionality. And if feature is disabled, it means it's not turned on, and the feature will be just deactivated, so it will be not affected it will not work in your application. If you enable certain feature, it means you ask it to run and to change some system behavior. And we have plenty of such features, maybe more than 200 or 300. So we can find out, you can see how many are there. You can see more than 200, so maybe 300 or 400 different features. And they have some descriptions. Sometimes they have some additional settings. And the most important, you need to understand, if you are just a regular CLIO customer or partner, you do not want to make more risk in your system. You do not want to get more adventures that you have already, then probably you should not go to features at all. But if you start to do some experimental things, if you collaborate with support team and support team tells you that please enable certain feature, then you can do this. You can go to features tab. You can find feature by code. You can enable it. Probably need to log out, log in, and then you will see how it works. Such feature changing also can be done from CLIO. Set feature command is here. Okay, what else? Lock, unlock package. You can also play with deactivation of packages, but I think that for project development, it's not a very popular thing. You probably will not keep packages deactivated. Usually it's necessary to fully disable your functionality for some time. And deactivation of packages is usually made when some parent package necessary, but absent. And I don't think that you will use it in your projects. Compilation of full configuration action. So you see a lot of interest in different actions. Some of them are documented at GitHub, some of them not documented, and you only can guess how it works. You can see also hotfix state of a package can be made with a CLIO if necessary. And what is interesting to know is that for those who do not like command line, but wants to work with CLIO. We can also see that developers, and I think it's Kirill Krylov, they made a CLIO Explorer add-on for Visual Studio Code. You can install it from your Visual Studio Code to automatically find out that you have corresponding environments registered. So it operates with CLIO files that you save on your disk, you have it on disk. So it now works with target environment, and you see different actions that you can do with user interface. And such actions can be helpful. For example, if you want to use a graphical user interface instead of some code. But personally, I don't really like this because it doesn't show me some results, or it shows a little of error messages. If you have some errors, you will need to know as much as necessary, as much as possible. But here, it will work and not display you the same amount of information for errors as you can get it in command line. So it's up to you. You need to know that such CLIO Explorer exists. You can use different functions. The most popular functions are here: default, restart, clear Redis, delete connection. It means delete this registering at all, and save from creation to Git, and save, update, creation from Git. Such functions, which I plan to tell you about, this is probably connected with tied functionality, and or maybe it's a CLIO function. So let me tell you a couple of words. So now we already finished with CLIO, and of course CI/CD can be done with saving packages or applications and loading applications. So the main CI/CD function is when you just do saving of your app into file and loading your app to another environment. So I think this is the best way how you can do, and the fastest way how you can do delivery. Now, a couple of words of TIDE and what it is and why you probably need at least to hear about it. So let me show you somewhere here at Academy. But we have a major change of Academy website today. So maybe you will find it interesting. And you can go to community, or we need to do search. So I need to find something related to TIDE. TIDE stands for Team Integration Development Environment. And this is an idea of a kind of an add-on for CLIO. So TIDE is utility which works with a pair in CLIO. And in order to install it, you need to first install CLIO. And the TIDE is designed for two major functions. It's designed to, let me show you this picture bigger here. There are major functions: to save your current editable configuration to Git. So if you have a set of packages that you edit, then you can save them to some remote Git repository. And second function is update your configuration from Git. This will be done in a different way, not exactly the same as we work now in file system, saving to disk, and then committing to repository. So this is not using file system at all in this mode. This feature is designed to submit your settings to Git even from cloud development environment. So I think the main goal, which authors tried to achieve here, was submitting your settings that you develop in the cloud to remote Git repository, and also to update your current creation in the cloud from remote repository. So two major functions, and some settings like repository URL, like connection to Git using some credentials. And last time I tried to use this tool. So there are some manuals how to use it. And yes, Andrei, you're right. It's for no-code developers, but I tried to use it. I think that it's very early state now, and maybe you can also try it in the cloud. I tried it for my own local system, and I found it quite hard to make it work well. So maybe in the cloud, it works better than for local environments. And for me, I tried several hours to make it work. I did debugging, I did recovery, and I did some client-side tracing and so on. So finally, I made it work for my local environment, and it was a bit painful, I need to admit. But in general, what you do is to install CLIO first and then install Tide. Let me show you command how you can install it. So it means CLIO. We have a command install Tide. You can find it here. Short version of it, which is not displayed. We can only find it in documentation, is called Tide. Okay, let's do this correctly. CLIO install Tide ED1. So we try to install this app on our current environment. We know that it will be hard to make it work fully. Maybe it works better in the cloud. I did not check it in the cloud because I personally prefer to run CLIO locally to have full control in file system and to see what happens with CPU, what is memory consumption and so on. And that's why I just prefer working with the local system. If you develop in the cloud and you really need to integrate with Git, maybe this will be your solution. This Tide is also quite often updates, and it's made by the same team who developed CLIO. So we can try to find some recent changes, 1.5, 1.3, 1.3.2, maybe this one. Let's check, March. Okay, some new functions, some improved navigation, some checks. Some updates for CLIO. Link to repository, link for repository. This is a command. So Tide uses CLIO a lot. Now you can see it needs to compile itself when installed. And Tide is designed to operate with Git in cloud conditions. Physically, I found out that Tide saves corresponding files into file system, but you do not see exactly how it does it. And in cloud environment, it's still possible to save the settings into conf folder. So when I using Tide, I found out it saves data here to conf, create some certain folders, and then commits folder contents to Git using some kind of Git client, which also comes with this tool. So once we installed Tide, we can find it at our main application. I'm pretty sure I will not be able to demonstrate it how it works here, but I will just show you the main options. Where AI skills, advanced settings. It looks like we missed something. Package installed, configuration finished.
It's a section, Dim.
Oh, thanks, Andrei. Yes, we can find it. Yes, my applications, it's a section. Yes, probably it's questionable why to design it as a section, but it's okay. So we have just a single section with what? Where is our data? Why it is thinking so slow? Maybe need to clear cache and open it again. ATF Tide. Capture clear. Ah, yes, it's one of the problems which I had. And it turned out it was caused by running other CREATIO environments in the same browser. I run dev and test. And because I'm running test, I had this issue. I had to debug this. Okay, I will show you how to fix. We can close browser fully, open it again. It has double cookies saved in our browser, and this function in Tide turns out to be sensitive for it. I had to debug. And if you try to do the same, you'll probably have the same problem. So you need to close your browser fully, make sure you have no other cookies from any other creation sites here. Then you go to Tide section and you will be able to see it. So we can register some repository. We can call it my rep or something. And you need to provide your creation login and your creation password, because such parameters will be used for CLIO to run. By the way, it will be interesting example that this control is programmed in code, and unfortunately, this control to display passwords is not a no-code control that you can put to your page with just a mouse. So I was interested in how it was done. I found out that some special classes used here. So this page can be a good example for you if you need to provide some kind of inputs for controls for such things like password with possibility to display and hide values. Then this is not a no-code control, it's a programmed control, but you can do this if you look at this code behind this page and see how it was done. So you need to provide your repository URL, you need to make an access token from your GitHub repository, from your GitHub account, and finally, you will be able to commit all your editable packages into save to Git into your remote repository, or collect everything from your remote repository to your current environment. All of it still works through file system, but it saves data into conf folder. Also, I found out that if I use it locally, I already have CLIO, and I found out sometimes it may install CLIO itself one more time, but then it will reinstall it again. And it turns out that reinstalling fails, and that's why these functions may work only once for you. So I had some painful times working with it. This is kind of alpha version, so you should understand it's not a finally finished product, but maybe it works well for you in the cloud, and maybe you will get benefits from it working in cloud developer environment and wanting to participate with other developers, keeping common repositories, sharing settings between different cloud-based developer environments. So maybe this will work for you. At least this is something very new from the same authors who did CLIO, and they designed it to operate with Git from the cloud. Thank you, Andrew, for a lot of important comments. So that's it for today. And it's just a brief explanation. You can find more about creation, Tide. You can find more about it at community. You will see explanation, what it was made for. You can see change in user interface and some notes and comments. And you will find more at community related to Tide and its new versions. Usually such announcements are provided at community. You will find more if really interested in this project, if focused on cloud-based development, then possibly it will work for you. Okay, that's it for today. Any questions? We'll study integration tomorrow. I will show you examples how to call OData and data service API. We'll make a REST API third-party calls from creation with no code. And finally, we'll prepare for developer exam if you want to run it. That's all for today. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you were interested in examples that we studied today. Maybe you will become a fan of CLIO as well as the same as I do. I think that CLIO is one of the best apps. And I did not even tell you that before CLIO appeared, we have an app called Workspace Console. But once you have a CLIO, you do not need Workspace Console anymore at all. Workspace console. This is a product app inside of CLIO, inside of its own. It was made more than 10 years ago, but it's also a command line utility. It requires connection to the database. It has a lot of parameters and maybe can work for the same purpose, but CLIO is just another level, and it's much easier to operate if you do its setup right. Then you will enjoy CLIO, and Workspace console is really outdated thing. And yes, Andrew, you're a fan of CLIO and also CLIO workspaces. It's for those who prefer to create a separate projects and combine it with creation. Now we mainly study creation things, and that's why I do not spend much time for such kind of side tasks. Thanks for all of you. Thanks, Andrew and others. And Yusuf, small issue. Yes, please.
Yes, sorry. So yesterday we just moved to a remote server. So in the beginning of
Mhm.
the course we were using our laptops, and then yesterday we just moved to remote servers. And while installing the instance, there's this issue that I'm facing that the SQLite DLL is not found.
Okay. This happens because of application needs some access to disk. This SQLite DLL is part of executables at CLIO. You can find it here, SQLite DLL. So you can see DLLs here, and they do certain write operation on your disk somewhere here. And solution is to allow application to write inside of its own folders. Maybe you can do this just for Terrasoft the web folder. Maybe you can do it for all folders, including your main loader part. So how to do this? You go to File System, you find your Terrasoft web folder, you start to edit its properties, find Security, and then you need to edit it and add the special role. This role can be found in local machine only, and then you need to click Advanced. Everything is recorded now, so you will find it in video recording. I understand it's hard to remember. Then you click Find Now. There is a special role called IIS users. You click OK. You click OK. You need to provide modify permission for this role. Then you click OK, and it will take time to apply. Maybe you will have errors like this. You can continue, you can skip. And finally, this, if you apply it fully correctly for all files, finally, this will allow to CLIO write on its own file system, and this will fix your issue, which you tell about it yourself.
All
Is
right.
it
Thank
clear?
you so much, Nisra.
Yes, and also if you face something like this, you will also need to review our day one video, where we change the C Windows System32 folder to make correct compilation. So you will also face compilation issues. And finally, here you need to have this folder, you need to have this permission. And okay, we can cancel, we can do some kind of tricks here, and still it will be saved properly, I guess. So now let's see, cancel. Okay, we'll cancel everything, but now I open it again. We do some tricks, and here is very important. So Windows must be able to write into this folder somewhere into its subfolders. That's how you will fix the issue with SQLite error message.
All right. Thank you.
You can find the same in documentation at Academy. Probably it's not so obvious. And if you search for the word IIS users, you see, I can also copy it for you. This is a role, and this role must have a permission to write. So you can see that maybe you can also find it SQLite, or maybe only SQLite. And you can see error message. and you see that permission to the folders. And also you will see that usually it's fixed and NuGet libraries. Also, maybe that's okay. So usually permissions is enough to fix. ISI user. So I can share this link for you. And this is also additional information how you can do this. Also, if you face other typical, as you see, or as you expect, queries and issues with creation, you can do search at creation community or at creation academy. It will lead to corresponding articles and you will get some additional information and food for thought how to fix.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Yosef. Any other questions for today?
No, thank you for the day.
Okay. Thanks all of you. Tomorrow we will have the final session. So if you still have something to ask, you have the final chance to ask with your voice, and I will be happy to hear any questions from you, any feedback from your experience, and we will study integrations and prepare for the exam. Of course, for those who want to pass this exam. That's all for today. Thank you very much for your attention and see you tomorrow. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you.